Jingerri, everybody, and welcome to our Australia special.
Yes, Jingerri! Jingerri means hello, at least it does in one Aboriginal language, but they've got about 250 other languages. For this episode, and the next one, we delve into Aboriginal culture.
To find about what Australia was like before the Europeans arrived.
In this episode, we go out and about. First close to home, and then further away.
I go to Clearwater Bay School, and I did a group project about Aboriginal culture. A big shout out to my group, Dylan, Rita, Connie, who moved to England, and me.
And I brought the Dad and Me Love History microphone into school to see your exhibition and find out more.
Jingerri.
Dad and me love a whole lot of history. We could be the greatest team that the world has ever seen. Dad and me love a whole lot of history. Why did we use these colours, Dylan?
Because they were the colours that the Australian Aboriginals actually used, because it was the materials they had in the surrounding environment.
What materials did they use?
They used flowers, charcoal, sand, and bark.
Do you guys learn anything out about what Aboriginal people would do, how they would survive?
They would make spears to kill animals if they are attacking them or to eat them.
They used the dot paintings to tell the stories of the dream time, which was when they believed the world was created. But dot paintings on canvas were only created in 1971. But they did dot paintings in the sand before that to tell stories.
Cool, thank you. Finally, are we able to hear this instrument here? Can anyone get any sound out of it?
Wait. Done.
Brilliant, thank you very much, guys. So where are we, James?
In Queensland Art Gallery.
And what are we looking at in front of us?
A dot painting.
Yeah, a dot painting, you know, the Aboriginal style or Indigenous Australian style. Do you know anything about Aboriginal art, James?
Yes. They had performing arts that were Kangaroo Dance and Emu dances, and performing arts that are didgeridoo also. And they had visual arts that had dot paintings.
You have to excuse James's voice. He's been losing his voice since we come on this trip. And what about the colours? What colours do they use? And do you know why they use those colours?
I only know 3 colours, what they mean. Yellow means the sun, red means the earth, and black means the people.
Oh, cool. And do you know what materials they would traditionally, that means, you know, back in history, they traditionally would paint on?
Bark, rocks.
And do you know where they got any of those colours from? How do they make the different colours?
Brown from bark, yellow from sand, red from earth.
Yeah, the red earth of Australia, especially in the centre of Australia, big, great colour.
Green from leaves.
Green from leaves.
Black from charcoal.
Oh, black from charcoal, that makes sense. Something that's been burned goes a black charcoal colour. So, you know, burned wood. So, James, this painting that's in front of us, how many people painted this?
3.
And do you think that was normal in Aboriginal art, in Indigenous Australian art, that more than one person would paint a painting?
Yes.
Because we're seeing lots of paintings here in the museum, in the art gallery, that are painted by, in fact all of them so far that we've looked at are painted by more than one person. Well, how did you, because you did a project at school, your group, you did a dance, you did some music, and you also did a painting. And so how many of you worked on that painting?
4.
So 4 of you worked together on a painting. And that looks like that's normal in Aboriginal art, that you collaborate and you work together it's kind of like a family or community thing.
The next dance is a happy dance, a celebration dance. We do this dance with our children. They will hop up and copy and learn from their uncles, their aunties, their mothers, their fathers, how to dance, how to tell story, how to pass on our culture through song, through dance.
So here we are. There's not just Dad and me, but we've also got guest presenter Maddie. Say hello, Maddie.
Hello.
And we're with some very special guests today.
Yeah, my name is Luther Cora, a songman and dancer for Jingerri Aboriginal Dancers.
My name's Hezekiah Cora. I'm a dancer for Jingerri Aboriginal Dancers.
Cool. And would you like to ask the first question, Maddie?
Do boys and girls have different things?
Yes. So in our culture, there's always a men's business and a women's business. So there's things that girls do, things that boys do. And like the didgeridoo, for instance, girls don't play the didgeridoo or girls don't touch the didgeridoo. But the girls also have their own instrument, which is a lapskin drum. And boys weren't allowed to touch that instrument, or even sometimes not even allowed to look at that instrument. So in our culture, there's always something that women do, girls do, something that boys and men do.
How do they recognise the leaders?
The leaders were our old people, so the elders of the tribe are all the. So as you become an elder, you got a certain amount of knowledge as you went through different ceremonies.
And how would the leaders be chosen? Would they inherit the role?
We didn't have just one leader or 2 or 3 leaders. We had everyone in the tribe that was an elder of a certain age had to go through a certain amount of initiation. So as you go through that, you were given a certain amount of knowledge. So all those people with that knowledge were all equal.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. It was a group of elders. So it's a very diplomatic system that we had here.
Cool.
Do you have any way of tracking time?
The studies that I've done and talking to elders, time wasn't a big thing for our people. We mainly done seasons. So when it was seasons to hunt certain things, the trees and the environment would tell us what those seasons were. So time itself wasn't a big thing, as in hours and minutes and seconds. But it's just more of we got a morning, afternoon, nighttime. So those sort of things. Time is it's not part of our culture. It's we live day by day.
Yeah. No, James?
Where did they go to the toilet?
So we've been studying ancient cultures. Like the Roman army would just make their camp, and they would make a really fantastic defensive camp, and then they would just poo all over the place.
Oh, right.
2,000 years ago, right?
Well, I don't know. There was always order to everything we did.
Yeah.
So even when we collected shellfish, we had those middens that you still see around the Gold Coast area. So they were just really a rubbish heap of shells that we had left over, and they were all put into one place. So I can imagine the other, the bits, number 1s and 2s would have been done in certain spots. Everything, we had respect for everything around us. So the environment, land, earth, trees, everything around us was respected. So I think we had law around that one as well.
I didn't start recording till after, when you were talking about the boomerang and how that was used, because it was used in a very different way to what we would have guessed.
Yeah, well, there's many different tribes, and different tribes will use different weapons in a different way, or have different styles of weapons, not all the same shape boomerangs. So particularly the returning boomerang was used by a lot of different tribes around Australia, but not so much for hunting. A lot of people think the returning boomerang is used for hunting. Once you hit an animal with a returning boomerang, it's pretty useless. It won't come back. So if you know anything about science or physics, or you hit something with a boomerang or a stick, it's gonna fall exactly where. So there's no point of having a returning boomerang. So a lot of people don't think about that in their head before they say it. So really used for our mob, it was used as a decoy. So we throw the returning boomerang out on top of the birds or the ducks that are sitting on the water. Returning boomerang would do a circle on top of the ducks. The shadow from the sun on top of the birds would look like a bird of prey, and the men would also whistle like a bird of prey. So the ducks would just see that shape flying on top of them, hear the noise, think that there's a bird of prey, and take off low along the water. And up further would be hunters with nets and killer boomerangs.
Wow, that's so clever.
What did kids do?
We would follow the adults and learn how to hunt or throw boomerangs and all that. Yeah.
Do you know from what sort of age you would do that?
Probably when we're able to walk, then you kind of just start following, stay behind, and then once you reach a higher age, you would actually start joining in.
Cool.
Is there any way that they would entertain themselves if they weren't doing that?
Probably dancing, painting, swimming, or just play hunting, catching little fish and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Can you tell us how far Aborigines might have travelled and what they would have used transport-wise to travel?
Yeah. It's all foot. No vehicles, no
boats.
There was canoes.
Yeah.
But most of our travelling was done by foot. So we'd travel, a few hundred kilometres from the Gold Coast or northern New South Wales. We'd travel up to the Bunya Mountains in the old days before Europeans came every 3 years for a big festival. So that's maybe 300 kilometres, and that'd be done by foot.
Right.
So that's probably the biggest distance done around this area. Well, we did travel by sea as well, so that also travelled from the Gold Coast area to Straddie, which is only about 70 kilometres, and trade with those guys up on Straddie, North Stradbroke Island.
Behind every dad and me, there's a mum and wife, and in our case, she's a maths teacher. And do you want to ask your numbers question and what you'd heard about? Come a bit closer.
Hello. I'd heard that in Aboriginal language, traditional language, there isn't any numbers higher than 2 or 3. Is that true or not?
We count up to, I think, in our area, so it may be different to, we've got 300 different tribal groups or countries.
Yeah.
In our tribe, we'll count to 5. Yeah. So that's about it. Everything else after that,
It's just a lot.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot, yes.
Okay, so it was truth in that. Not.
I didn't make it.
Yeah, no, not completely.
Can I just ask the kind of the face paint that you've got on? Is that's traditional?
Yes. This one represents what I got on is a storm. Represents a storm, mugra. Yeah.
So it's not for camouflage or?
No, it's like it's sort of like a uniform.
Okay.
So in the old days, you'd know where someone's from by the style of paint that they're wearing, or what business they're about. If they're going to marriage or what kind of ceremony they're involved in. If we see them coming, so we'd know what they're about and where they're from, or the different style of painting that they're wearing.
So every time they'd sort of leave the village, they'd be painted in one way or another.
Yeah, because they'd always go for business. Wouldn't just do things just for the sake of. There was always a purpose. What we did, everything we did was that there was a purpose to it. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It's been great seeing and hearing your wonderful show, and great meeting you. Thanks for taking the time to be with us.
We'd like to thank you all for letting us share just a very, very little bit of our culture with you today. For those of you who are Australian, this culture, the history, the songs, the stories, it all belongs to this land. So it belongs to all of you guys as well. Thank you very much.
Hope you enjoyed that.
Thank you to Clearwater Bay School and to Aboriginal elder Luther Cora and his family. They perform regularly where we met them at Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary on Queensland's Gold Coast.
And thank you to Maddie, our special guest presenter. Big shout out for Noah and his little sister Neve.
And a big shout out to Jasper too. Please share and tell your friends about our podcast and give us some reviews.
Jingerri.
Join us next time for part 2 of our Australia special.
And go to Facebook and Instagram to find videos and photos from our Australian adventure. Bye for now.
Bye.
Dad and me love a whole lot of history. We could be the greatest team that the world has ever seen. Dad and me love a whole lot of history. Let's play some music then. I think we can go now.
Cool.